Our frontline employees have been outstanding. They know that they're doing critical work, otherwise the grocery store shelves would go empty.
Today I'm here with Doug Thomas, President and CEO of Bellingham Cold Storage. They've been open and in business providing essential work for our community and services. Doug, thanks for being here today.
You're welcome. Great to be here. We had to scramble around back, like I say, I think on March 13th, Friday, March 13th, we were working from that point on. My leadership team, I would say, worked from that point on probably for 2 full weeks in a row without a day off, and anywhere from 12 to 20 hours a day just to get all of our documentation in place and all of our safeguards in place, and assimilating all of the CDC requirements and our guidelines, and then the local Whatcom County Department of Health guidelines, and then continuing operations, because our 12 on-site processing customers had to continue to produce so that we could replenish the grocery store shelves, both locally here in the Whatcom County area, but across the nation, really. Many of our in-house tenant processing customers were operating 7 days a week during those first few weeks before we could finally get everything back up to snuff on the shelves. And then, and I think we took a couple of Sundays off, and now we're taking, once in a while, we'll have a Saturday in certain segments of the operations. So I'll take Saturdays off. But it's been a real ongoing Groundhog Day type experience where we're just every day getting up and coming in early and staying late and making sure that everything's running properly. I would say beyond the leadership team that helped us pull all those things together so we could remain in compliance and keep a safe environment for our employees and our customers and the truckers and everybody that visits the two complexes. Our frontline employees have been outstanding. They know that they're doing critical work, otherwise the grocery store shelves would go empty. Kind of like the toilet paper shelves were there for a few weeks. Our engineering department developed a couple of innovative, unique measures that I'm really proud of. One of those are that they designed and installed hands-free door openers on all of our employee areas. So all of our restrooms, locker rooms, and lunchrooms now have door devices that you can open the door from the inside without touching the door with your hands. So that's been good, kind of a simple solution, but it was made right here in-house in our own maintenance shop. And they did a great job of putting that together. Ozone is basically O3, and instead of the O2 in oxygen, the ozone generators create an environment where the oxygen is given an extra oxygen molecule, and it essentially kills all germs, bacteria, and viruses. It'll also kill all the plants in the office, so we've had to remove those each time we do those treatments so that we completely sanitize the areas. We haven't had any major outbreaks or any positives within the BCS employee group. We kind of believe that that's been a pretty good measure for us. We also ozone employee work clothing, like their freezer suits and gloves and hats and those kinds of things. We installed 4 large containers and located them at our 4 busiest loading docks, and then we purchased some Nordstrom style rolling clothing racks so that they could be rolled out. The employees can put them on at the end of put their clothing on that at the end of each one of their shifts. We roll them back in, and the ozone generators are inside those containers. We close the doors, treat the garments, and then when they come back for their shift the next day or the next morning or the next night, whether or not they're on day or night shift, they've got perfectly sanitized clothing. I would say that we've learned over time that at least half of the equation here relates to the emotional well-being of your employees. They should feel safe and comfortable and appreciated and that we're taking this very seriously, and that we're doing everything we can to ensure that their environment is as safe as possible. We leased brand new porta potties for all of our loading dock areas and outside of the loading dock. We've come up with new protocols for truck drivers so they don't have to come inside to sign off on the paperwork. We do that electronically. And if they need to use the restrooms are there, and those are sanitized on a regular basis. We have sometimes as many as 120 trucks at each one of the two plants, and that's a lot of points of contact.
On the onset of all of this, what were some of the things that your leadership team was thinking about and considering as you saw this starting to open up in our community?
Early on, I would say in mid-February, not too long after President Trump instituted the Chinese ban on travel, I just decided, we've got to get a few pallet loads of hand sanitizer and a few pallet loads of PPE here. And thankfully, I think we were on the fairly front end of that because we had a fairly easy time of getting those items. And when they got here, I thought, man, maybe we got too many, I feel a little embarrassed. Is this really going to happen? And they hadn't put any of these things in place yet at that time when they arrived. And then soon after they arrived here, I'd say within about 3 or 4 days, sure enough, the CDC came down with all these recommendations for food handling facilities and whatnot. And thank God we had that on hand because it really helped us have everything we needed. We didn't have face masks early on to where we could have fresh face masks for every single day, for every single person. A friend of mine, Bob Bray, who runs dairy distributors here in town, called me a couple days after the whole thing kind of got started and said, hey, we're going to go back to home delivery on our dairy distributing because we don't have the high schools and the grade schools and all of that to deliver to. Now we're going to make home deliveries because everybody's at home. He said, like my dad did back in 1963. And he said, could we borrow a couple of your insulated totes? We'd like to put some ice in them, and then we can keep the milk and all the dairy products chilled while we're delivering them to home delivery. And I said, sure, absolutely. So we sanitized a couple of different totes for him, and he came down, loaded them up, and I'd heard that his wife Martha was and about 22 other church ladies, friends of ours, they were all making 100% cotton cloth masks for the hospital workers. They've been at it about a week or so, and they've made already several hundred masks for the hospital. And I said, do you think there'd be a chance that we could maybe get our name on the list for those? And long story short, they've made over 350 masks for our people. And so that gives us the ability to sanitize those every day with ozone, and they can wash them and dry them and then ozone them. And so they have a repeatable mask that they can wear over and over that is safe and sanitary. And I think gave our employees a lot of comfort. That was kind of a blessing that happened through a favor of a favor.
How do we go forward as a community here? What would you like to see?
We took this very seriously from the very beginning. We never downplayed it. And I think that's been part of our success. Between ourselves and our tenants, we got 1,050 people that have navigated the entire bell curve without a significant issue. At the same time, having experienced that, I'm inclined to say that as essential employees and as people going to Fred Meyer and Costco and Walmart and Lowe's and whatnot, and if you've been to any of those places in the last several weeks, you'll know that there are certain times of the day that people are stacked up on top of each other pretty close. We've navigated through this whole thing with the lion's share of our population still being out and about, whether we like to admit it or not. And we've done fairly well. I think the Whatcom County Health Department just issued another report today. We've gone 3 days in a row without another new case, and I think we've gone a few weeks now without any more deaths. I think we're still at 32 deaths in total, which it's a shame to lose 32 lives, certainly, but it's clearly the bell curve is flattened out. And I would just say that if 1,050 of us successfully navigated it by exercising diligent and taking it seriously measures, that if we as a general population who are not at high risk were to take to heart similar measures, that I wouldn't see any reason that the community couldn't continue on. I think we should protect our most vulnerable and our seniors. I've had my dad cooped up at his house at the Lake Samish the entire time. I've been delivering groceries to him every week or every other week. I'm trading off with my brother and his wife in Burlington, and we just kind of make him stay there. And he's 83 this year, and so we kind of make him stay there, and we put the groceries on the porch, and we tell him to take them out of the bag and throw the bags away and all that kind of good stuff. And he's been great and whatnot. But I think that's for sure, for real. Anybody over 80 probably ought to be, or anybody of high risk should be quarantined. But I'm not sure that we've ever quarantined healthy people as a world measure successfully. Usually you're quarantining those folks that are affected and not healthy people in general. I think the emotional well-being of not only our employees, but of the community in general and of the world is a real peril. And I have friends and some folks here that have struggled with that. Everyone handles stress differently, and some are more equipped to just kind of power through it, and some really are shaken by it. And if the only thing you're seeing on the news is doom and gloom and fear and anxiety, and they're only sharing the number of new cases and deaths, I always say it's like watching a basketball game where the only thing you can see is the fouls and the technical fouls and the ejections. You can't see the score of the game. You can't see how many minutes are left on the clock. So it's all focused on the negative, which over time, whether intentional or subliminal or not intentional, it has an impact on our society. There's certainly a lot of good news out there in regard to the number of recoveries. How many self-recovered, how many recovered with modest assistance, over-the-counter type medications, how many recovered with prescription. That's the whole other side of the scoreboard that we've been forbidden to see. I don't know if it's because they believe that we're not capable of handling the whole story, or if they're just really interested in scaring the heck out of us to the point where we take all of these things seriously. I, for one, can tell you that I'm a big enough boy to handle the whole truth and still take it very seriously.
Awesome. Well, Doug, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here and to speak with us. And it's been inspiring hearing what's going on at Bellingham Cold Storage and how your employees are doing during this time. And thank you for the essential services that you're providing to our community.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you doing this.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed watching this episode of Bellingham Now. To see all of our episodes, go to BellinghamTonightShow.com. New content is added daily, so make sure you subscribe for updates. Thanks for watching.